Welcome to the Macromolecules of Life Overview, an interactive science tutorial for students like you.
By the end of this tutorial, you'll know that all creatures and such that inhabit the Earth, in other words, all biological systems, are made up of one or another type of large macromolecule. Biological macromolecules can be divided into 4 groups based on their chemical properties. These 4 groups are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. You will learn to distinguish between these biological macromolecules by their structure and function in this tutorial. Before we jump into this tutorial on macromolecules, let's remind ourselves that atoms combine into distinctive molecules. Molecules that play a role in biological systems are mostly composed of 4 atoms, those being hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. Macromolecules, as you would guess from the name, are larger structures than individual molecules. Just as atoms combine to form molecules, molecules combine to form large macromolecules. Let's remember why the study of atoms and molecules is important. We have a picture here of field biologists in a beautiful forest. All around them is life in the form of plants, insects, and other animals. All are made of molecules. Keep this in mind as we explore how molecules combine to form biological macromolecules. As you know, a train is made of many individual train cars. It has a front end, usually the locomotive, and a caboose at the opposite end. These connect to each other, making a chain of train cars, which we call the train. This train is analogous to a macromolecule, just as a single train car represents a molecule. The cars can be different from one another, or sometimes they're the same, but each kind has a particular function in the train. In a similar way, individual molecules link together to form a larger structure called a macromolecule. Now, macro can be thought of as the opposite of micro, and it highlights that the particular object we're talking about, the macromolecule, is large. In a generic way, the individual molecules are referred to as monomers, and the large product composed of many monomers is called the polymer. So these monomers connect together, just like the cars in a train. These monomers form a polymer. We can use our understanding of prefixes to help identify what the word means. Mono means one. Poly means many. Monomer is a single molecule. Polymer is a link of many molecules. In biological systems, a polymer is called a macromolecule. Individual molecules, or building blocks, bind to other molecules in a stepwise process to form a polymer, in this case, a linear chain. This is the process that amino acids use to make a protein. The binding of the amino acid building blocks together results in the formation of a covalent bond, a strong and extremely important molecule bond in biological systems. Up to now, we've been talking about macromolecules in a general way. Now let's identify them by name. The 4 important groups or classes of macromolecules are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. In these images, you can see the colored balls that represent the atoms of macromolecules. You can also see that these molecules have distinctive shapes. These shapes, or conformations, can be used to describe the macromolecules. For example, you probably noticed that the macromolecule on the right is a double helix, the classical structure we associate with DNA, a nucleic acid. Each of these 4 classes of macromolecules differ in the role or function they play in a biological system. Starting with the macromolecule on the left, we see an example of a carbohydrate. The functions of carbohydrates include a source of fuel for cells and building material. Carbohydrates have important functions in biological systems, some of which you are probably aware of, and others which may be new to you. One form of carbohydrates is starch. Cellulose is a starch, a complex carbohydrate found in plants, which helps give it its strength and rigidity. Another function of carbohydrates is providing fuel to organisms, a big role of food crops, such as wheat and rice. These fuel carbohydrates are broken down to smaller products to be used as a source of energy for cells. Scientists use the word polysaccharide as a general term for complex carbohydrates. You can think of polysaccharide as a long chain or polymer of individual monomers. For carbohydrates, these monomers are simple sugars, or more specifically, monosaccharides. When you think of carbs, think of where we get all our sugars from. Plants. Let's practice what we have learned about the macromolecule carbohydrate. Excellent! You correctly identified carbohydrate as a main source of energy for living things, and also defined the terms monosaccharide as a single unit, and polysaccharide as a complex carbohydrate macromolecule, formed by a chain of monosaccharides.